7 simple steps by the Zimbabwe dictator that ruined a prosperous country. 1. Destroy productivity. Zimbabwe's prosperity was based on agriculture, but farmland takes up too much space. Robert Mugabe set up a housing program. He blamed white farmers for stealing the land. The farms were nationalized and their owners evicted. The fields were destroyed to make way for cheap housing. In 2000, there were 4,000 large-scale commercial farmers. By 2003, their number had shrunk to 500. Another round of nationalization occurred in 2012. In 2000, Zimbabwe produced 309,000 tons of wheat. By 2013, the yield had fallen to 39,000. The 2023 harvest of 180,000 tons is being hailed as a record. 2. Bury the truth. Under Mugabe, all statistics were classified. The early 2000s saw widespread malnutrition and starvation. It was not reported. All data on grain harvests was guarded like a state secret. Journalists who dared to ask questions were arrested. Instead, the state-run TV stations showed bountiful harvests. The only reason Zimbabwe survived was Western aid. Of course, the staunchly anti-Western Mugabe never mentioned it. 3. Crush dissent. Zimbabwe had one opposition newspaper. The Daily News was launched in 1999. It criticized Mugabe and his ZANU-PF ruling party. In 2001, Information Minister Jonathan Moyo described the paper as a threat to national security, which has to be silenced. Hours later, the Daily News printing presses were destroyed by a bomb. The paper's license was revoked and its editors arrested. 4. Micromanage the economy. Mugabe introduced an impossible number of economic regulations. He fixed the price of bread at half the baker's break-even price. He levied astronomical fines on any baker who charged more. Bakers stopped making bread at all. Then somebody noticed that sesame bread wasn't price-controlled. It was considered a luxury item. So they started sprinkling a few sesame seeds on standard loaves. There were hundreds of similar edicts. As a result, Zimbabwe experienced the worst inflation in history. Cash became worthless and was denominated in trillions. Eventually, the national currency had to be abolished. 5. Brainwash young people. Most Zimbabweans were illiterate before Mugabe. He managed to achieve an 85% literacy rate, but this was done through the National Youth Service Training Program. Anyone who wanted to work had to enroll. The schools taught reading, writing, and hate. Many of the graduates formed the Green Berets. These youth militias beat up people in food lines. They harassed opposition supporters and seized farms. The Green Berets were free to destroy anything. 6. Scare off foreigners. Zimbabwe used to be popular with tourists. After all, it's where the famous Victoria Falls is. But the murder of white farmers scared them away. Cash and fuel became too scarce under Mugabe. In 2000, Mugabe's militias invaded white-owned urban businesses. They seized hotels, department stores, and even the offices of foreign corporations. Investments evaporated. 7. Invade a neighbor. In 1998, Mugabe sent 11,000 soldiers into the Congo. It was a third of his army. Officially, Mugabe was supporting the government against rebels. No one had asked him to. In fact, he set his sights on Congolese diamond mines. One of Mugabe's colonels, Shinga Dube, explained on TV,
"There are fortunes to be made in the Congo, so why rush to conquer the rebels?"
Mugabe's cronies did get rich off diamonds, cobalt, and timber, but the war was extremely unpopular. At home, officers grew restless and began plotting a coup. It failed. Mugabe dismissed his critics as black white men, wearing the master's cap. He was finally ousted by a military coup in 2017, but Zimbabwe is still in ruins.